Hi, welcome to Chapter 5 of your lesson. We're going to talk about revising and editing. I realize on the screen it says editing and revising, but either way you put it, we're going to be making some changes to your essay. We're going to discuss why and how to do that effectively. So your 5 steps of revision and edit are: step 1, you want to revise for unity. Step 2, you want to revise for adequate support. Step 3, you want to revise for coherence. Step 4, you want to revise for style. And step 5, you want to revise for technical errors. So let's talk about step 1. Step 1, revising for unity. All that means is we want to make sure that your essay flows. And what I mean by that is I don't want you to start out talking about your dog and I wind up learning that you have 45 cats, 2 pigeons, a chicken, and a goat. If you're going to focus on the dog, you have to focus on the dog. Now, if the dog plays with all those animals, that might be okay to include. However, if you're simply listing all the animals that you own, that's probably not what needs to go in the paragraph, which goes to step 2, revising for adequate support. What that means is you want to make sure that your facts are exactly what they are. You don't want to include things that can't be proven. And by that, you don't want to say, all white dogs have pink eyes. Well, not all white dogs have pink eyes. You can say some white dogs have pink eyes, but you can't say all dogs have pink or blue or green or yellow eyes. Adequate support also includes staying on topic. If you are talking about how to wash a dog, you don't want to throw in there, oh yeah, and you know what, I washed my little brother yesterday. We don't need to know that information. That's not supporting evidence. It's just a nice little story that could be, say, for a different type of essay. Revising for coherence, it all goes into support, it goes into unity. Coherence means I need to understand everything that you are doing. It means going point A, point B, point C, not point A, then to point F, and then, oh, let me go over here to step 35. Oh, but you know what, before you do step 35, you need to go back, and we don't need any of that. What we need you to do is go step by step by step. So, revise for style. I'm not looking at how you're dressed when you're writing your essay. The example that you see, hello, my name is Luana, I am a teacher. I want you to know that that would be extremely unacceptable. The reason for that is I'm jumping from one letter style to another and to another. You need to leave that for when you're doing posters and signage for garage sales and banquets and fundraising. It doesn't belong in an essay. You have to stay in the same style. That also means that you're going to edit for technical errors. Technical errors involve punctuation, grammar, spelling, fact checking, all the mechanics that go into writing an essay. This includes making sure your fonts are correct. It includes making sure that you stay in the same voice. You don't want to say, I am going to write today about my visit in the desert, and then switch to, I was really talking to you about a fantasy. You changed tense. You went from present to past. So you really need to ensure that you are consistent throughout your entire essay in how you are presenting your work. Well, that's not going to work for you now, is it? What is the purpose of editing and revision? Well, you're going to refine your point. What that means is we're going to go through and we're going to look at stuff and say, oh, you know what? That really doesn't need to be in there. It doesn't help me make my point. I might like to throw it in there at the end, we'll see what happens. It ensures that your essay is readable and it is comprehensive, as well as provides comprehension for the reader. And what that means is, as I read it, I want to flow from point A to point B to point C. You see that we are repeating a lot of information here. So when you ensure readability and comprehension, it means I understand. I'm not going to switch between Spanish and Japanese and Jewish and Greek and English and Latin and 10,000 other languages, because if you don't read any of those languages, it doesn't make sense for me to even use one of them, much less all of them. And my audience may not want to have to switch language maps. And language maps are how we learn different languages. So we don't want to go from English to Spanish to Spanglish to French and back again. We want to stay with the same language that we started. We want to, again, identify our mistakes in grammar, our spelling, and our facts. I cannot emphasize that enough. Sometimes the facts aren't important. If you're writing a story, a fantasy story, there's not much fact that's going to go in there. Not much evidence to support what you're saying. But you want to make sure that if your main character is named Susie, you don't suddenly change it to Marrakesh, because we're not going to be able to comprehend what you're doing, and it's going to interrupt the readability, because now I have to stop, I have to go back and go, wait a minute, wasn't that character named? And I have to stop, rewind, and reread, and that provides for not much flow, so it's not readable. All right, here are your first set of exercises. All right? We're going to go over these little by little. The following thesis statements have 3 supporting points that can be developed into body paragraphs. Remember, your thesis statement is your main idea. This is your main idea that you're trying to get across in your essay. So, here are your supporting points. However, maybe this doesn't really support what you're trying to get at. So, we're going to circle the point that does not support the thesis statement. Well, in my case, because I'm using a computer, we're going to flash it or make it do something wonderful so that you can understand that that is the correct answer and not the answer that not the sentence that needs to go into this particular essay. So, wow, it's B, right? There you go. Answer B. Old appliances can be recycled. While the thesis is we're a throwaway culture, throwing away doesn't mean recycling, because when we recycle, we save stuff, we take it back, we refurbish it, we redo it. We're not talking about I threw my toaster in the garbage because it didn't work. All right? International adoption should be banned. This is your second number 2 in your first practice exercise. So, too many celebrities have adopted internationally. An internationally adopted child will often lose contact with his or her culture. And by adopting from poor countries, wealthy Westerners contribute to the exploitation of mothers who cannot afford to keep their babies. So, out of those, one of those statements doesn't provide any support whatsoever for why international adoptions should be banned. So let's see which one it is, and it's A, right? Awesome. It is A. Too many celebrities have adopted internationally. If you're going to take a certain style, remember, if you're going to be controversial, to remain controversial throughout. Don't backpedal and say, well, I've changed my mind. Then you're doing a compare and contrast. Okay? When we have trouble with continuity, it means we can't really understand where you're headed and why you're headed that way. So here is a paragraph that doesn't have much flow, much unity. It is your practice 2 on page 59 of the Writer's World 3rd edition. So if I'm going to edit this particular paragraph, I need to read it first. I need to understand what the topic sentence is and what sentences I need to get rid of in order to make it flow better and make it one sentence, one comprehensive, unified, structured paragraph. So when Gita arrived in the United States, she suffered from culture shock. On the first day of classes, Gita noticed that some American students were eating or drinking as they walked in crowded places. Such behavior would be unthinkable in India. It is considered rude to eat in front of someone and not share food. Gita also noticed that American students were on familiar terms with their college instructors. Some students even call their instructors by their first names. Indian students would never call a professor by his or her first name. I was an exchange student in Seoul, Korea. Korean students bow to their professors and elders. I also got into the habit of bowing each time I met my professors. Gita eventually adjusted to student life in the United States and today laughingly recounts her reactions to some of the cultural differences. Well, I'm thinking that, given my pause, that you would know where we need to delete. I do read fairly quickly, but I also have to pause when something is throwing me out of sequence. So here we go. Trouble, here we go. What's the topic sentence? When Gita arrived in the United States, she suffered from culture shock. So that's your answer, all right? That is your topic sentence. It's the main idea of what we're trying to express. Well, that seems pretty cohesive. It's all right there on the first day of classes. And, we're talking about how she knows people ate in public and how American students call their instructors by their first name. We didn't need to know that that person went to South Korea. And we didn't need to know that in Korea, professors and elders are received with a bow, or that the writer got in the habit of doing that. And then finally, the last sentence, which is structurally sound. Okay, here we go. More continuity issues. It seems pretty cohesive. It seems like it's an okay paragraph when you first look at it. But again, we're going to need to identify our topic sentence and what needs to be taken out. So here we go. The academic performance of students weakens if they are sleep deprived. Therefore, our college should implement a few rules to help students get enough sleep. First, the college should actively promote physical exercise for students. People who exercise regularly find it easier to fall asleep at night. Some people don't like to exercise, and they have physical problems that prevent them from exercising. Classes should also start 1 hour later to give students an extra hour of sleep. Or students could have an hour free in the afternoon. Some students would take advantage of this free period to take a nap. And finally, the college could offer seminars and sleep clinics to educate students about the consequences of too little sleep. If the college implements these small changes, students' grades may improve. Okay, well, let's find out what our topic sentence is and what sentence needs to be removed. Remember, your topic sentence is going to be in the first part of your paragraph. Your thesis sentence, which is the theme of your overall essay, can appear anywhere. But your topic sentence is usually your first 1 or 2 sentences. Okay? Well, it's not the first sentence. It's the second sentence. Therefore, our college should implement a few rules to help students get enough sleep. Right? Let's see what needs to be taken out. Some people don't like to exercise, and they have physical problems that prevent them from exercising. Well, I know we're talking about exercise, but that's not the main focus. The main focus is how to fall asleep. So be careful that you don't get the two confused. That's a nice support statement, but it really doesn't belong there. This will go into our next chapter. I'm going to let you look at that and think on it. You can brainstorm, come up with your own ideas. Remember, when you revise for adequate support, You don't want to have circular reasoning. And what that means is you're not saying the same thing over and over and over again, which I do in class, but I do that in order to educate you. I would not do that if I was writing an essay to provide information or entertain you. You'll also notice that you have paragraph 3, or practice 3. I want you to complete that on your own. I want you to provide the better support. I want you to add details and write if things are okay. All right? Now, if you're going to revise for coherence, we have some transitional expressions. Those will be on page 63 in your book. So we will look for those in your upcoming essays. Make sure that you understand those transitional phrases. Now, we also worked on adding transitional words within a paragraph, and that will be coming up before we go into narration and brainstorming. This is just a preview slide. So, next video, we are going to add transitional words.